I still don't show any people wanting to participate in the Zoom hands. All right, well, this is still the RAC. Oh, no, good to go. Good.
Yeah.
Better, thank you.
What did you do?
Meeting, we turned it, we rebooted.
Down and try again.
Still copy, turn on, turn off.
Your problem. Thank you.
I don't know why, but
Thank you. Sorry, John. Wonderful, all right.
It's trying to get my computer open.
All right, well, we apologize to anyone who was trying to join. We had technical difficulties, but I think we've got it resolved now. Good evening and welcome to the June 1st Board Advisory Committee. So the discussion on the table is the secretary for this evening's meeting, and then I guess choosing one for the next meeting, which is the July 6th meeting, which I realize is also a lot of vacation time. So we need to make sure also that we'll have a quorum for July 6th.
so back to this item, I guess H11, the secretary, right? We still are sort of on that. I guess, is there anyone that is unwilling to do that one meeting a year or whatever the rotation works out in some years? But there could be a chance that we may not have a July meeting. There could be a chance we may not have a December, you know, I mean, it just, there's no guarantee we're gonna have 12 meetings a year. So I guess, you know, for the most part, you may have two, but the most part, you have one meeting a year. And I think at the end of the day, the minutes, the bare bones, like Kathy said, is you got it when the meeting started, you know, those type of, you know, basic things, when the meeting ends, those type of things. Obviously, you know, if we wanted to, someone could request the minutes to be printed out from the, you know, we could look at that one meeting and say, do we want all 45 pages in there or not, or whatever the number is, I don't really know that number, but if we say as a group, that's fine, but if it becomes overwhelming.
We can also just link the video in the minutes.
Jillian, I'll tell you, I don't know how to do that, so I may need your help to.
Okay. I think that would be the easiest, but I can, I think Bob and I have put in our time already for secretary.
Yeah, for this year. But I guess the other, so now we're
Thanks,
down,
Jillian.
the remaining members, would anyone oppose not having to do that one? So,
No, I don't mind.
and I'm willing to do August. I probably won't be here in July, and I think that's another item on the agenda. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the July meeting just gets canceled because it's, you know, a day after July 4th. But if there's enough of you guys here and want to do it, God bless you, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, could we vote on that?
Yeah, well, that's a later thing on the agenda, but
Okay.
I can't commit to what I'm saying. I can't commit to July 6th. I can commit to the August, whatever the date is, like that, August 3rd.
Yeah, I prefer not to do.
August 3rd, so I can commit to that. And maybe we'll just do some type of rotation, either alphabetical or whatever we want.
What you're cut out of the video.
Oh, Roy is?
No, the other Bob. There we go.
Well, I
Oh,
can't.
no, we cut out.
I can make,
Here we go. No.
I can make half of a head.
Oh, you know what? You can make.
I can zoom it. If you know how to zoom it, I'll let you zoom it. That they've never
Help
done.
me out, I don't.
Your contract doesn't mind if you're not included.
I will ask. I got everybody in there. I will ask that question next time I
Meeting this month.
Yeah, there's a way to
So I'll get
expand
my
it.
FaceTime.
Showed it to me.
I will ask how to expand the screen next time I'm in the township. All right, well, so that being the case, do I have a volunteer or a victim for this evening's meeting? For secretarial notes, please.
Oh, that's right.
I can do that.
Thank you, Rakesh. I appreciate that. All right, so I guess we can discuss whether we're having a July meeting or not. A little bit later
So
on.
let's just go back and close this item out, one
Yep.
each. So I guess I'd make a motion that all the members besides the chair will, take their turn being secretary on a rotating basis.
Take the turn doing the minutes.
Doing the minutes as a secretary.
As a secretary.
As a rotating basis throughout the year.
So could we add to that? So in the resolution, it says to send the minutes to the township board and to each member. So should we send it to Linda and then you send it to everybody, or just each one of us takes that role and we just follow through on those steps?
It may be easier for continuity to have it sent to me and then sent out. That way I have a second check to make sure. I have it.
You're gonna
So
need it for the agenda.
I just want to say, I give a report at the township board meeting, attempting to summarize what has occurred at the most recent roads meeting. I don't think they want to read the minutes too. I don't think it's necessary to send the minutes to board.
Well, it says in the resolution, so, I mean, that's the only,
I send it to Christie and ask her to post it on the website, and if the board chooses to access it from that point,
That's good.
they have the opportunity to do so.
maybe that's what they meant.
Less paper is more time. All right, well, shall we make a resolution to have a revolving secretary?
Yeah, I guess I made that resolution. I made that
Sorry.
motion. Is there support? for
Second.
that?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
I'll do it.
Take your pick.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
But wait, I was seconding the motion.
Yes,
Okay. I didn't,
okay, I'm just gonna call it revolving secretary.
okay.
All right, that being the case, we're back to the minutes.
We should probably vote on that.
Oh, we should probably vote on that. All right, so just a vocal vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Roy.
No problem.
All right, minutes. Anybody have any comments about minutes from the May 4 meeting?
Comments are well done. Thank you.
Yeah, they were good.
Well, I have comments about, but not about the minutes specifically, but some of the things in the minutes.
Shall we handle those at this time or later?
Say this time.
Okay. So there's a paragraph on the second page, that would be the third paragraph down. The committee did not need to receive board approval to hold a neighborhood meeting or for the cost of mailing out an announcement for the meeting to the residents as determined by the assessor. I don't think that is accurate. I mean, as far as maybe he said that, because that
He
was.
said,
Okay, but as far as those recommendations, I question.
Where is this, Jillian?
It would be the second page of the draft
The
minutes.
supervisor had to weigh that one.
Believe the committee can respond generally.
Should residents, right? That one, should the residents want to explain?
You said second page?
The second page of the draft minutes.
Page 4 of the electronic.
Oh, page 4.
The supervisor Hathaway.
Yes.
You're saying the second sentence, should residents want to explore the possibility?
Well, it's past that, it would be that, the continuation of that sentence. The committee did not need to receive board approval to hold a neighborhood meeting. I don't know, that's maybe not board approval, but we still don't have a good system here regarding SADs and whatnot. I mean, I'm going through past SADs and there's a lot of issues that just, we're gonna create the same issues if we don't have a solid plan. And for the cost of mailing out an announcement for the meeting to the residents as determined by the assessor, that's a little vague. I think we need, I just don't remember. Bob, I know that you wrote what he said, but we had a lot of conversations during that meeting.
May I make a suggestion, Jillian?
Sure.
I think maybe it'll clarify it. So there was sort of 2 meetings that were discussed with Supervisor Hathaway when we were saying, in the instance the neighborhood comes to the township or to the road committee and says, we'd like to discuss improving our neighborhood roads. We had indicated that we thought it would be a good idea for a leadership role to be taken by some neighborhood residents. And I think that initial meeting could be, as opposed to having the entire neighborhood meeting, we're having an SAD meeting. The pre-SAD discussion meeting may have been what was
That's what that was referenced.
referenced
What
in
he was-
here,
okay,
instead of the larger, let's mail out something to every tax ID in this neighborhood. And that's something I'd actually like to get into in our unfinished business update on Park Ridge and Liberty Hills neighborhoods, because it's, you're correct, we don't have a good roadmap or a good, I don't know, syllabus of how this needs to happen. And we really need to correctly put something together, because we've got a lot of people now floundering in process. And
Yeah, okay, well, all right, so we'll, I guess, talk about that later on when we get to that part. Also, under new business H, I highlighted this earlier, so the RAC support for the TAP committee to develop a joint recommendation to the board. Oh, so that is about, why is TAP involved in our road, as township-wide road SAD?
They get 10% of the money.
But, okay, so we're gonna have a discussion about that later, because I think that's gonna be brought up. Because it should not be. So that's it as far as the minutes go, the questions I have for that. Or, yeah,
okay. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts about the minutes, or are we ready to?
I'll move the minutes.
All right, Townsend moved. Do I have a second? Was that, yeah, thank you. All right, all in favor of adoption of the minutes of May 4? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, is the format of the Excel spreadsheet with the C attached list for communications working? It may slow down, but we've had a lot of communication. And I'm trying to create some sort of a tracking mechanism for who we've heard about, on what date, what their email address is, so we can follow up with them, and then create a column for action so that we have some history moving forward.
could we add a name to that? Because I was kind of confused until I went through the rest of the memos, and I'm like, or the emails, and I'm like, oh, this is a list, and I like it. But I had to figure out what it was at first.
So the road advisory committee
A correspondences, I guess.
correspondence list,
Yeah, that's correspondent list.
certainly.
I'm just thinking of future board or, committee members when we're not here, that we have something solid for them as well.
So I attached the communications that we had received since the May meeting to this, and if anyone noticed, Bob Groden was kind enough to respond to Bill Bogan and Al Banning and Mark Rosen on our behalf. And in the column to the far right, it says RAC response. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan Roy Townsend responded, I'm sorry, to Al Banning, Mark Rosen. I'd like to have some kind of a response back to people, just so they know that they've been heard. And I don't know if we have that all ironed out yet, but thank you very much for doing that, and Roy for doing that. Okay, so
Then we also, responded to Park Ridge. Lisa and Amy had that follow-up meeting with them.
you did, and that was right after I had submitted this. I think that was the day after I submitted the packet. Do you have any discussion that you can give us on the meeting with the Park Ridge?
Sure.
I don't know, leaders.
And Roy was there. And
That was the 24th, is that correct?
that was the 26th.
26th.
And Joe, what's Joe's last name?
Joe Maynard,
There.
Walsh Engineering.
He was there as well. Will was there. Lisa, Tool Silver from the Park Ridge, and Amy Friedman, and I forget her last name. From the neighborhood. And the discussion really went around, well, it boiled down to they want road improvement. And the distraction was, when they tried to do this a few years ago with an SAD, they were encouraged, I was going to say coerced, but I'll say encouraged to pave. And that got a lot of controversy in the neighborhood because it would have required removal of about 300 trees or something, a widening of the road, because the WCRC has to approve it when they pave. So we got back on point to say, no, you want road improvement. You want the, the ditches and the water management correct and all that. And so with that, Will said, okay, we do need a SAD as recommended. SAD is recommended. It won't be the county or it won't be necessarily the township. And Roy, you correct me if I'm wrong here. The proper, we talked way before about hierarchy, and I'm trying to get this hierarchy correct when we meet with our people. So the recommendation was they go to the road commission first to determine the scope of the project. Ken Harris or Harrison?
Ken Harris.
Ken Harris. And I offered to be there when we walk the street, because I think part of the goal has got to be to minimize the elimination of trees. They want to maintain, the look of the neighborhood, actually. So also Lisa and Amy were going to start canvassing the neighborhood to see, the interest. And then I guess from there, it sounded, and I'm a little vague, it sounded like the township would send out a notice for a SAD meeting. Is that right, Kathy?
Right, well, so
They do usually, but
right. I think the next steps, after one of the couple things, you're right on so far. And next steps is Lisa was going to reach out to the road commission, Ken Harris. I talked to Ken just 2 days ago. She has reached out to him. So she talked with Ken, and Ken met her out there months ago, whatever, a couple months ago. And so the road commission would scope out. Tricky part on Park Ridge, part near Wagner was paved 2,000 feet, 2,100 feet, was paved in 1988. There's a gravel piece in the middle, about 3,500 feet. Then there's another 800 feet near the other end, the Maple Road end. The plan is, right now anyways, tentative, it's always the neighborhood decides, but repave the 800 foot at the Maple end, repave the 2,100 feet at the Wagner end, and put gravel on 3,500 feet in the middle with some minor ditching. So we're going to meet with the road commission. Bob and I will go out there when we have that meeting and sort of walk the job and figure out the scope. Is it, 300,000, 200,000, 800,000? So then they'll get an idea what ballpark. So then they can, have a general meeting and then have petitions, and see if there's people interested in doing this type of scope of doing each end with the, and then the discussion was that everyone would pay the same amount, divided by how many people there are along that road. Let's say it's 800,000 divided by the 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, whatever the number is. So that was what was discussed at the meeting, and both Lisa and Amy seem to be supportive of that idea.
Can I ask, because I don't know, some neighborhoods are, very specifically a neighborhood, and we're talking about Park Ridge, the road only, not the Park Ridge neighborhoods, so Walnut, Roseland, and all the little ancillary roads that are in there. Has anyone approached any of those? I know that Roseland specifically was on the list of things to get gravel by the road commission.
Well, I think, if you look, there's SADs that are in the process right now with the township, and sometimes it's the whole neighborhood, but sometimes it's just this road. And I think this one would be just the Park Ridge Road. And it'd be, like we say, not the township-wide SAD, it'd be a neighborhood SAD, so it'd be all the people from beginning to end would be included in that.
Yeah,
SAD.
I just want to make sure, because I don't want there to be hurt feelings by the neighborhood, that if we call it a Park Ridge SAD, we call it a Park Ridge Road, or the Park Ridge Street SAD, as opposed to, because people consider that to be the Park Ridge neighborhood. And I
Okay.
don't want someone to find out that Park Ridge is having an SAD meeting, but they live on Walnut and nobody told them about it. And, you know,
But they did
hurt
talk
feelings.
about some cul-de-sac that is only one way in and out.
Yes,
now,
and they would be
And they would
assessed.
be assessed.
Yes.
One private
Yeah.
cul-de-sac, a private driveway that serves 2 or 3 homes, they would be included. But there is like Robinwood and all the other roads that touch
there's
that
many.
road. But that's, I think, you know, the initial start was, let's just try to do this long
I don't
road rather
disagree,
than
I just want to make.
the
very
big
clear.
neighborhood. And you can do them either way, anyway.
Well, okay, there's a process, Public Act 188. So Park Ridge already has an SAD for engineering, which I'm questioning if that's even legal, because reading Public Act 188, it states that engineering costs can be charged, but it must be part of a whole improvement. Engineering is not an improvement. Special assessments are a specific benefit to a property. Okay, Public Act 188 regarding roads, there is a specific, so there's different improvements, and those improvements are, is how it's calculated or is based on the improvement. For roads, it's road frontage. So we can't go in there and say, oh, it's all gonna be equal, because that's just not how Public Act 188 is. Now, there's Public Act 246 too, one of them, I keep getting it backwards, then that's a whole other ballpark with the road commission. But so there's already this engineering study that they're paying for, and the same,
They've paid for it, that's done.
they've already paid for,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
that was done a few years.
they're finished with that, okay, but they've already had it. So that did not give them an improvement, so there's legalities there. So that engineering process before, is that going to not have another one? Are they gonna be charged for another one
No,
for this new?
The plan would be the road commission would scope it out, and the road commission would do the work. There would be an engineering plans needed for this type of improvement.
Now, why would the road commission be doing this?
That's what they did. I mean, that's what they did, you know, the projects that all were listed in the township agreement. What are there 10 projects that we're doing this year? That's what they do. They scope out work, give townships estimate, then do the work. The paving, they'd hire a contractor to do the paving, they do the other work.
Okay, that's interesting, because Daleview had, I mean, all of these have Washington Engineering or OHM doing the engineering part of it.
Well, a lot of times they're paving projects.
Okay, you mean, so you're just talking about gravel?
Portions of it be gravel, portions of it be repaving. So I mean, but getting back into the Public Act 180, when you're deciding if it's a go or not a go, then it is by front foot. But once it's a go, or if it's not a go, then that goes away. So you figure out how much, you know, if you have a frontage of 50 feet, you get 50 votes. If you have a frontage of 500 feet, you get 500 votes. That's how it reads. I've done these numerous times.
Okay, well, that's,
And then you can decide how you want to assess the people. You can assess the people based on the value of the property. You can assess it on each equally. And generally, each equally, because just because you have less frontage doesn't mean you use the road less than my neighbor who has 500 foot of frontage. You probably use it, you know what I'm saying? Not that we live next to each other, but I'm saying, you figure it out,
Okay.
what makes the most
Here.
sense.
so improvement, the construction, improvement, and maintenance of public roads, okay, which is C, under 41.722. Then you go to 41.723, and they talk about for an improvement under section 21C by the record owners of land constituting more than 50% of the total road frontage upon the road, bicycle path, and sidewalk. So that is, it's not the total land area, it's the total road frontage. So under improvements, 21, everything else except C, G, K, M, they talk about land area. So it depends on the type of assessment. So this is what, this is what I mean about this, we just don't know, we're running with scissors here and we don't really know what we're doing. And we're gonna create another Railroad Street and another Liberty Hills, and every other SAD that's had issues. I have Lamplighter here, we're supposed to have these matching funds from the township,
Time out.
but this is what it
No,
is.
No, it's not. It's not, because we met with 2 representatives of the community who are going to canvass their neighbors. And we told them, it's all up to you. We're not gonna prescribe anything. So you're not gonna have a railroad here. It's not done clandestinely. It's all transparent. It's totally different. I think this is the right way to do it. Now, my question would be is, the things you're citing, is it prescriptive in how we're supposed to assess? If it's
Yes.
not, well.
That's what Public
okay.
Act 188 is set up
If it's
for.
prescriptive, then whoever leads the SAD for the community has got to learn what the rules are and abide by the rules. If it's not prescriptive,
It can't be because the cul-de-sac, because it has 0 frontage, gets it for free.
okay.
They get a
then-
benefit from coming from the cul-de-sac to the road.
Then it ought to be the community that determines how they want to pay for it.
I agree.
I don't care how they want to pay
I
for it.
agree.
That's how they've been doing it.
And let me say something else. I don't think we need to get hung up on all these little technicalities. If we do that, we're not going to get any results. And I'm here to get results, okay?
We get bogged down these details, exactly. I mean, the township's been doing this for 10 years. There's probably 25 successful SADs. The Railroad Street didn't go anywhere because people didn't want it. That's fine. Let's
That's not
start there.
true. There's
No,
certain
wait a
people that
minute.
want it.
Railroad
I know, but it's not moving forward. No one's being
was
assessed, but let's look at the 25.
clandestine agenda mission, okay? It was handled all wrong, and it was led by a couple of people that had just moved in the neighborhood 8 months ago. They had no business trying to change the complexion of the neighborhood of people that lived there for 40 years. And they were led by some representatives sponsored by this township that was trying to force them a certain way, okay? I'll leave names out. You can figure out who they are. It was a total cluster.
Okay, but we're
That was the same
trying to
with
do
Liberty
this.
Do you agree with me?
Yes, and it was the same with Liberty Hills and a lot of these other SADs.
To me, what we did with
Yeah.
the 2 folks and the meeting with Will the other day was the right way to go.
So that's why we're on this board, to make sure that it never happens again.
That's right.
So
Okay.
we're all agreed. I think we're all agreeing. Jillian's just pointing out what the rules are by which we have to operate. And I mean, so we need to make sure it's legal.
Right. Well, I'm not an attorney, but I'm just
So I'm not
saying.
implying that you're not trying to do that, by the way. I'm
Well,
just
that's why
saying,
I asked, is that prescriptive? If that's the rules, you gotta play
That's
by the
why
rules.
it was on the very first agenda for us to go over this and read it and study it. I have been studying this. Because I don't want to see residents pitted against residents.
Well, that's gonna happen no matter what we do. I got this.
Well, and let's have a friendly disagreement on that one, because, here we are again. Not everyone's going to agree on the same concept, but I like the idea of asking the initial meeting to be, please find a few people in your neighborhood who are willing to be neighborhood leaders. If this is something that the neighborhood wants, we want the neighborhood to come to Scio Township as a discussions that have already been held before the letter goes out. I don't want it to be a surprise to people that we're then going to hold an official meeting. My understanding of the request for engineering and the, I don't know, SAD is that you can't have a real neighborhood improvement meeting until you know what the costs are. Presumably, the engineering that was paid for with a smaller SAD for Park Ridge a number of years ago is still relatively valid and could be, I don't know that it needs to be completely reworked.
Well, actually, the process that we handed out a month or 2 ago is 2 meetings. One is a scope meeting with the neighborhood and kind of a ballpark of everybody wants to do this, here's what we think it might cost, et cetera. Then you have a follow-up meeting when you get the exact cost, so that people have the ability to say, oh man, it costs that much, I don't want to do it, or I do want to do it.
But the township wants residents to pay for those, the engineering for the cost.
I think that was only because Park Ridge was complicated. The other 25 that we've done, for the most part, Their existing subdivision roads are pretty straightforward, and we've done them. Park Ridge, it was 15, 16, 18 foot wide, no ditches. So it's like, if you want to upgrade that to a paved road, you gotta do it to some standard. That standard widen the road with graded trees being cut down, ditches being put in. So that's why everyone wanted to know what's it gonna be, what's the impact. So that's why they had to hire Walsh Engineering to do survey work, to do the engineering work, to find out what that was going to be. Most of them, you know, are already a paved subdivision, they just want to be repaved, or it's an existing road that's wide enough that you can just add gravel to. So that's why that one was more complicated. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, you can, if it goes forward to a certain point, which is engineering, and then it stops, those numbers can be assessed to the neighborhood, because they're the ones petitioning people to start the process. They elected to stop the process, but they're gonna be required to pay for that portion of the project.
Yes, Kathy.
So I think that it's good we're having dialogue on this, and it's good to hear Jillian's comments, because at our last board meeting, we had several SADs on the agenda, and everything got tabled because of questions that arose during our discussion. And come to find out, within the last couple days, I've been informed that we have several SADs that in place that residents were not billed for. So we have a problem now with our billing for SADs, and this could turn into a major problem. So our township attorney is getting involved, and we have to figure out, I mean, I'm just hearing about this for the first time.
Yeah.
So that was part of why I asked Jessica to give us a rundown on exactly what's in each SAD fund.
Was it your understanding that it was road improvement SADs that weren't paid
Yes.
for, or engineering SADs? that
Road
weren't paid
improvement.
for?
Okay. A special assessment provides a special benefit to a property. We cannot be charging under a special assessment for engineering.
And it doesn't get done.
Well, no, the thing is that what Roy's saying is that the road commission would
No,
come.
stop. Who pays, if the town, if like,
Yeah,
Park
there
Ridge,
is a
they
benefit,
said
by the
no. who
There
pays
is a
for the work?
benefit. The benefit is you're paying engineers to do what they do, to
Yeah.
make sure that when you build the road, it's not a
No,
disaster.
no,
So
no,
there
no,
is
no.
a
So the engineering would be part of the total improvement.
The
And that's what it says right here.
The engineering work, if the community says no, the benefit they got was understanding the total cost.
The benefit to that parcel,
Is the
what is
understanding
the
of-
special benefit that brings the value up of that parcel? That's what a special
understanding the
assessment is.
cost of doing it. You don't get a freebie.
No, that's not the point. The point
No,
is that.
Stop.
No, you stop.
Who pays for it then? If an SAD asks for the engineering work, then goes, it's too expensive. Who eats the engineering cost?
Right, exactly. But the thing is that what I'm bringing up is what's in Public Act 188, and we need to get these things straightened out. We don't?
No,
Okay.
they get a benefit. You're looking at a benefit a different way.
There is a benefit,
Yes.
even if you don't like the result of the
No.
engineering. There
The
is a benefit.
benefit, according to special assessment laws, statutes, a special assessment provides necessity and a special benefit that increases the value of that property. That's what a special assessment is. There is case law after case law.
So how?
This is
how-
what I'm bringing up.
How can they ever work?
Pardon me?
I think what these guys are saying, the engineering was a benefit, because then they know the
Did it-
scope of that
did it-
project was taking down 300 trees. Once they found out that, they're like, oh, we don't want to do this. Without that, everyone was just guessing. Is it 100 trees, 20 trees? Where's the
Did it
road?
increase the value of that property?
It prevented the value from going down by removing the trees.
Right. Now they can make an educated decision.
Yes.
There's a cost of doing business.
I understand that, but I am talking about the law.
It's a limited understanding of benefit. We can sit and argue what the benefit is, we go. blue in the
Okay,
face.
you know, I have an idea. There is a man, his name is Joe Turner, and he's been doing special assessment. He was a special assessor for over 30 years. He retired. And now he has a consulting business along with Fred Clock, that was the mayor of Saginaw. And he was also an attorney, and they specialize in special assessments because they saw many municipalities misusing special assessments. So I suggest that we bring him in and for a presentation, and he can set us straight. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm reading this stuff wrong, but I think we all need to have a good understanding of what we're doing. We don't need another lawsuit in this township. We don't need another neighborhood that's pitted against each other. And it's all because things are not done properly, and it goes back.
Okay, Jillian, I hear you, and I would like to get the information on that so that we can contact them, see what they charge, and see if we can get authorization to bring them in. I'm
Great.
pretty sure there'll be a fee for a consultant. coming in
Yes.
to say. I'd like to table that very active discussion because I think we've got a lot of strong views on it, but we do have some other things on the agenda I want to get to this evening.
So yes, we're going forward with the procedure that we agreed to with the Pepperidge people.
And so your understanding is that the next step with Pepperidge was that the assessor is going to send out a letter? Bob?
No, Ken Harris is gonna walk with us
Right.
and determine the scope
With the neighbors, right?
to improve, changing the substrate if need be, and crowning, et cetera.
So I don't think that good luck is the right comment. I
Is that-
think we're on much better, Jillian said
I
good
hope
luck.
so. I hope so.
But surely, can we agree that we're on much better ground with Parkridge, because engineering's been and gone. This is just, doesn't this now become the much simpler case? You know?
I really hope so.
Bob, I have a question. When you say the scope, what does the scope mean?
It's a combination, and Roy can correct me, the trees question, any culverts that need to be done or ditches that need to be done, as well as like we talked about, redoing the substrate with the crowning and what gravel will go down.
Right. Yes, exactly. So, does this driveway need a culvert? Was there a culvert here? Is it plugged? Is it crossroad culverts? Is it a ditching and the trees, a grading? Then, do we need to put 4 inches of stone on it, 6 inches of stone, 8 inches of stone? Some spots maybe more, some spots maybe less. Then paving, the pavement out there is 20, 30 years old. Does it need a mill and fill, which is you mill off one layer and put down a new course? Or do you pulverize the pavement and put that into the base and put 2 courses on top? Those type of things, so that's what we call the scope of,
Okay.
is it,
But that does not require engineering study, yes or
no, I mean, it just requires, best practices.
Well, and they had an engineering study, and that's
Right.
something I want to get to because we've got several other neighborhoods that have already had the engineering done in a similar, I don't know, endless loop. That would be wonderful to try and change. Can we move on to creating a recommendation of number 2 under new business for the Board of Trustees? So Jillian mentioned that lamplighter. We have a correspondence from some people saying that they were told by a previous township, was Bryce Kelly a manager or an administrator?
Manager.
That there was incentives available to their neighborhoods for SADs. We have heard from Supervisor Hathaway that there was a historical incentive program, and it's shown in the Lou Kidder document, sort of the, what is it called? Ian, I'm sorry, the roadmap to
Yeah, just-
SADs, the local primer
It's kind of a
document.
primer, yeah.
And it's
Description.
the historical incentives were limited, and it's not written anywhere, so we're trying to memorialize it and actually make it happen somehow. Incentives were limited originally to the first 3 projects, and they were $8,000 for a project under $100,000, $10,000 for a project over $100,000, and $12,000 available for projects over $200,000. There are no budget line items for this money in the Scio budget for 2022. So I'm not sure where those incentives are even going to be drawn from. Would they come from general fund? Would they come out of the township SAD, which gets tricky?
I actually have the lamplighter project engineer's estimate for SAD work, and they have the township matching funds of 21,000, almost $21,500, which doesn't match what was in that, the matching grants for the certain levels of.
Jillian, I'm sorry, what document? Is that a 2022 document? Is that a?
This is just recent because they paid their engineering SAD in 2020. They paid that off. So this is very new. But this is for Lamplighter, Pheasant Drive, and Deerfield Place.
Right.
The total project cost came to $453,000. And then they have the Les Township matching funds of $21,579.22.
And that is a Washtenaw Engineering generated document, does it state?
I believe it was Washtenaw Engineering because Washtenaw Engineering does a lot of these SAD studies.
Okay.
Where did you get it, Jillian?
It was provided to me from a resident.
Okay, because I don't remember seeing that.
But I highlighted it because because as we're going through this document, this new, that Ian is revising regarding the 3 levels, and I saw that 21,000, and here this is another example of things not being done properly.
Well, and so we have to, try and, I don't know, mitigate. This is a 2020 document that's not signed, signed off on by anybody. So
No, they turned it down.
Was this resident prepared?
No, this was
I was just, we're ready for.
Somebody who's not, they're not
Oh.
on mute on the conference call.
yes,
Sandy.
Ms. Ryder, you're
that
not
was
muted.
given to the residents by the engineer. So Jay Houghton was in charge of this, whatever, as a resident committee member.
Roads committee member.
He was a RAC, well, unofficial RAC committee member.
He wasn't an engineer.
No, Washtenaw Engineering provided that because they went through the process with Jay Houghton, and this is what was given to them.
But this may not be at all accurate.
Well, there was an expectation that was a document that was presented to somebody.
It was given to the residents.
We know there were errors with what he said in the past.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this may not be accurate.
All right, so Lamplighter and Deerfield, just to make sure, we have a new resident inquiry about that by someone named Harley Schwa.
Yes, and he was against the paving in the first place originally.
Yes, and he was another one of those voices that sort of said, I came to a meeting and I wasn't happy with, what I heard. We have had several inquiries from Lamplighter and Deerfield. And my understanding, yes, was that there had been a 2020 discussion with that neighborhood. Costs were presented and the neighborhood said, no, thank you. But now the neighborhood, a number of residents are coming back to us and saying, it's a mess. I believe it kind of comes back into unfinished business, but I want to stay in new business, so we try and stay on track. So I'm gonna.
So I guess what's in the resolution here is one hand, these numbers, 8,000 for less than 100, 10,000 for over 100, 12,000 for 200. If we were to do this, it would help bring clarity. Because I guess right now it sounds like this neighborhood got this, or at least there's numbers there. Obviously none of us in this room have any idea what that was proposed. But right now, I mean, if we were to move something like this, they would help set limits. So moving forward, I mean, we can't go back on what it's happened in, 2020, 2016 or whatever. But I guess this would help, here again, these were supposedly traditional numbers. They were supposed to be set as the bar. Maybe they weren't always. I don't think any of us in this room know that. The only thing I would have a concern on is, do you limit it to the first 3 projects of the year? If you're number 4, you excluded. I realize there's always a budget consideration, but looking at the numbers with the township-wide SAD for roads, I mean, I think the number is that I think we have $1 million in that account right now. So it's that's what I looked at before this meeting. Obviously, the township decides, the SAD has to come before the township each time anyways, before moving forward. Want to stay with the 3 projects, that's fine too, but it seems like by doing this, it helps bring clarity to our process. It's sort of been floating out there. And so I guess I would have moved that we, do this to help bring clarity to the
We want to
process.
stick with this level, which is, I understand, the same level of incentive that's been offered for the last, since 2013.
Ask one question before we,
Yeah.
should we ask the township where they want this money to come from? Because before we change, I mean, it's one thing if it's agreed and we put it in the proposal, should we make a proposal about renewing the township-wide SAD, that it comes from there. If it has to come from the general budget or somewhere else, it may alter our thinking.
Supervisor Hathaway, when I asked him that question, said it would be a good idea to memorialize it and get the Board of Trustees to approve it. It may not be used this year because there isn't a budget for it. It may be a 2023 issue, but at least we get it on the books. The 2022 budget was adopted.
Right.
We can't change that. If the trustees decide that they want to award money to a project when it comes forward to them as an SAD, I guess that's a separate decision.
Historically, the budget amendments are made throughout the year, so there's been a lot of changing throughout the year. People are trying to get away from that, but we haven't succeeded in getting away from that yet.
Okay, so it could be amended. They could
Yeah,
have a
it could be
discussion.
amended.
Would we hypothetically recommend it comes from the township-wide SAD just to potentially avoid the general fund unless there are issues legally that we have to be aware
I
of?
think that's where it came from before.
That was my
wasn't it?
question. I don't know where it came from before.
Yeah.
My understanding is when we passed the township-wide road SAD, this was one of the components when we had the public meetings, this we told the people. I'm not sure where it's written down, but I was at those public meetings. That was all this incentive money. And the goal was once, because there's incentive money at the beginning, there's also preventive maintenance at the end. So that was, somewhere in those minutes back in 2012, 2013. So that's where it always was planned to come, because all of a sudden now we're generating, people are, it's their money.
Yes,
They're paying $85, and so rather than taking it from the general fund, it was $85 per parcel per year. This is the incentive that's gonna potentially come back to you if you do an SAD in your neighborhood. So that's why I think if you look back through the minutes, somewhere in there, that's what was discussed.
I actually have the minutes. I went into Township Hall today and have them printed off for me. So I have the resolution as well, so it should be in there.
we can always put it in the next resolution.
I would be happy to move it to the next meeting and research the minutes. It doesn't have to be done this evening. I just wanted to get
It's
it.
not in
I
there.
agree.
All right, so I can move this one to unfinished business for the next meeting. Jillian, do you have time to look and see in the resolution, or can you get it?
I have it right here. It's not in here.
Doesn't state where the funds should be drawn from.
No, it doesn't even break down the 3 levels.
I think it would be really helpful to attach that to the resolution or recommendation, I'm sorry, that we're giving to the Board of Trustees, so they have it readily available to them, because that would be a question they'll ask, is what was the historical nature of this?
I was trying to find that. In my notes, I have exactly that, and nobody's been able to tell me.
No, I
It's
think,
kind of like, almost like it just appeared in the document.
I know you were looking through Lou's, primer trying to figure it out.
It's still in my document, but
yeah, it's in the newsletter.
yeah, it is.
What's the date of the newsletter?
Spring 2013.
That Lou Kidder newsletter that has all the SAD sort of step-by-step in it.
Yeah, so it's not in the resolution, so
A lot of things are not always in the resolutions. The resolutions generally are general, they don't specifically have these type of details.
Well, let's get
Someday with something done, I'm just telling you. I passed a lot
yeah,
of
but in
resolutions, but
order
I don't
for
get it.
something to be the law, I mean, a resolution is, that can be a court document.
Right, but the resolution on the road improvement didn't tell exactly what was gonna happen on every single road. We passed it to improve roads.
Actually, there's a lot of projects that were included. Yeah,
I think,
Anyways, let's just put it off to next meeting.
all right. Julian, can you hang on to that that resolution so that we can use it after the next meeting? We'll
I
attach
can
it to whatever recommendation we give to the board.
I can email it to the group.
That would be great.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, so moving forward, I had a request from Sandy Egler. Is that right? I think for a volunteer to update the RAC webpage. We only have a couple of things on the RAC webpage right now. It's our meeting dates. There is the 2013 local roads condition index. And we were proposing to add the updated local roads primer, but we're still stuck. We don't have the monetary incentives, and I still haven't received any feedback from the new township manager, Mr. Murray, as to whose name we're going to insert as the township representative to be contacted in our SAD primer. Luke Kidder used to be the contact and then was going to be the township manager.
It's generic, it's just Scio Township Administrator right now.
Yeah, he's an interim administrator. He's not a manager.
Excuse me, interim administrator. Thank you, Kathy. The other guy besides.
He was the manager.
Yes.
The other guy.
You know, trying to move your document forward, we can't say it's a township administrator because we don't have one. I understand that.
You've got to put a stake in the ground. It's not my
Yes,
fault. that
yes,
the
I understand that
township
it's
keeps-
necessary to move forward.
I'm leaving it as Scio Township Administrator or designee or whatever.
Yeah, that's good.
You know,
Or designee would be fine.
I think we got enough problems in this document without worrying about that. Like the fact that it's a million miles away from where it needs to be, quite obviously, given the tension here tonight.
All right, well, so if anybody comes across
just-
anything that they would like to add to the webpage beyond the very limited amount of stuff that's in there, apparently the township's asking. Yes,
I
Jen?
could work with Mary about on the website.
She seems to have interest in jazzing up the webpage.
Yeah, and
I should get involved technically as well.
you want to do it?
No, but if you need technical help, yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
If-
I'm
if
pretty
Jillian, could you contact Mary? and-
I'll contact Mary. Yeah,
Thank you.
she actually helped me track down the resolution and whatnot from 2013 in a little cubby in the corner of the township somewhere.
Wonderful. Well, then that's a nice give back. One of the things I just was trying to come up with, and we had discussed a couple of meetings ago, is ideally it would be nice for the 4 active construction projects that are going on this year, neighborhood people to have access to this is when we think it's going to start, this is when we think it's going to end, kind of, I don't know.
Berlin Way is done. It's
Yes.
finished. Yeah. So we could put that on the website as well.
Yes, congratulations, Merlin Way.
Well, I'm not positive Merlin Way is totally done because we've been getting emails from residents saying there is work yet to be done, finish up work.
Yes, and that was
Oh.
my question. So then
Yeah.
congratulations, Merlin Way, your paving has been completed. Citizens, if
Substantially
you have
completed.
cleanup, if you have cleanup items, please contact the township as soon as possible so that we can get them into the works. And something like that as a touchstone for residents. I know that they also can contact Joe Maynard at Washington Engineering, but he's a very, very busy guy. And if you try and contact Joe Maynard at Washington Engineering, it might be a week before you hear back from him. He definitely does respond to, but if it's a Washington Engineering paving project, he's been the point person for those cleanup, foul, broken mailbox sort of things.
So those residents in any of these SADs, have they contacted the township with any issues like,
Apparently Kathy's
They
seen
have.
them.
oh, to you?
To the board, the entire board.
Okay, and who's taking care, who's following through on those?
What I was told in the walkthrough when I did Daleview with Joe Maynard was that first it goes typically to Joe. he brings that to the supervisor. If the supervisor approves the charge or the repair cost, then it is taken out of the contingency fund, which is held on each one of the paving SADs. And the repair is done, authorized by Joe Maynard or subcontracted by Joe Maynard. And
This is-
apparently it's things like sprinkler systems, damaged mailboxes, damaged landscaping, uneven
Driveways not being
shoulders.
aligned with the road.
This
But it-
is stage 6 in the document, and it's got your project manager and neighborhood representative. So I don't know if we've captured it, but that's what.
Yeah, no, but I like that. What I'm trying to do is send less things to the township supervisor because I think they get backlogged on the desk.
Yep.
I don't know that Joe Maynard is better. I like your neighborhood contact.
Your project manager and the neighborhood representative will examine the roads and review a punch list containing items that do not meet the contract language. Once all items on the punch list have been satisfactorily completed by the contractor, WCRC will release its retainage, which is 2% of the project, to the contractor.
But how long are they allowed to wait before they contact?
I don't know, that's something that
That's a good question.
needs
Well, so
adding.
this was a concern one of the Daleview members had, was that they came out while we were walking the road that day on the pre-paving walkthrough. And the citizen said, we're about to leave for our cottage up north. We won't be back until after the 4th of July. So we won't even know if there's been damage done to our property because we won't be here to see it.
So should we put in a statute of limitations, like 1 year after would that be reasonable?
I don't know how long they like to leave those SAD contingency funds open. There's usually funds kind of residually hung out in the SADs. I mean, there still are some of them that are 5 and 6 years old, have little residual bits left in them.
Excuse
Well-
me, Linda, excuse me.
Yes.
You have some people who want to get into the meeting.
I'm sorry, thank you, I see them.
Not a problem, thank you.
Well, since there's, different seasons with different types of weather and you have something in front of your driveway that in the summer isn't gonna be a problem, but winter would be, or I'm just throwing stuff out there. So, I mean, could we recommend to the board having a statute of limitations for the contingency?
Sounds reasonable.
What do you think, a full 4 seasons would be optimal?
It's gonna be tough to get any contractor to agree to that.
Yeah, that basically means you have
No, but
2% of their
You're
money.
asking a contractor to be sort of responsible for that full year.
Well, but if we have contingency funds that the residents are paying for, right? Isn't that, from what I
Not
read?
usually very big contingency funds though.
It's
What
2%.
I've seen in the estimates and the quotes that have been done for previous SADs was they were more $6,000 and $8,000 contingency funds for some of the larger paving projects. That's something that disappears fast.
Yeah, but these are big expenses for residents. So would it be, okay, so there is a construction season. Generally, they don't do construction, right? So that, let's say the construction season ends, what, in the fall, late fall?
Yeah, November-ish.
So that would give the winter and then spring, and those are the 2,
I mean, 6 months is probably reasonable.
6 months. Okay. I just want to make sure that, I mean, I'm not going to have this on the website until it's the board approved or whatever, but just
So
thoughts.
should we make a recommendation, a second recommendation, and we can work on that, the language for the next meeting to the board about how the contingency funds for the SAD, how long the request for repair?
Yeah, or maybe first, what is it now? We don't even know what it is now, right?
That's probably a Joe Maynard question.
Yeah, it's maybe there's already something out there. We haven't tried that.
Let me ask Joe Maynard, and I'll bring it in as old business.
Right. Because it might be, something.
All right, I will admit that I have made an error and I completely skipped public comments when we jumped pages and jumped into new business. Inadvertently, and I apologize, and I see that we now have quite a few people on Zoom waiting. Would you prefer to take a thought on attendance for the July 6th meeting now and then allow public comment, or would you like me to wait until the end?
I would say wait until the end.
I don't think we'll be terribly long on the rest of this. All right, so I just wanted to have a preliminary show of hands. I do need to have a quorum of 5 for July 6th. And I don't know how many people are traveling. July 4th is a Monday this year. That would be the Wednesday following July 4th. I will be in town. How many other people know what their plans are for that week? Can we make a quorum of 5?
I'm not available. I'm away.
I won't be here.
I will be available.
You are Rakesh? Okay, thank you.
I don't want to commit yet.
Okay, it's fine. We'll put you as a maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe,
That's the
okay.
boss.
So I shouldn't just clear that date. We'll attempt to have a meeting and I'll put through a quorum request a few days ahead, as I have been in the past. Very good. I just want to make sure I wasn't jumping, ruining anyone's vacations. Okay, so Ian, we've been referring to the updated local roads primer.
Yeah.
And it's more important than ever. I agree with you that it still feels like we're not quite there, but at what point dare we post this thing? It's not new news. It was posted, it was part of public record before. And I think it could bring a lot of clarity,
Yeah.
even though it may make more questions.
Jillian, you raised your hand.
Oh, sorry. No, you had mentioned public comments.
Yes,
So when are we doing that? Because we're already on unfinished
I
business.
said, let's just press through. We don't have reports.
Okay, but there's 2 sets of public comments. Okay,
Yes, I inadvertently missed one. Let's try and press through quickly and then we'll allow public comment.
I think, so step 1 would be to share this document as it is with you guys. And have you all take a look at it. Because there's so many things that come up that it doesn't cover. So I'd love that feedback. And once we get it past that stage, I think it's up to us to make a decision in terms of, do we post it in draft form on the website or something like that? Or do we push it to the board for approval, or?
everything's got to go to the board. We're just a recommending body.
Right. So we can't put anything on the website.
No, just the basics of what's on there, the road commission and whatnot, but no, it has to, yeah, that's a major document, I would think. Because isn't that what's going to be given to residents as to start or to give them an idea what the process is?
It's a description of the process.
Description, okay.
Have you shared it with the whole group yet? I didn't think so.
I mean, people have asked for it, I've sent it to them, so.
Did you send me a copy?
Yeah. I'm not holding on to it for any, if you're interested, yeah, I'll send it to everybody.
Perfect.
If everybody could take a look and get back to me, that would be great.
Thank you. I think it has a lot of value. And we can certainly continue to revise it. Once it's posted, it doesn't have to be a static document.
No, I don't think it will be either.
All right, unfinished business 2. So I think Bob already gave us an update on Park Ridge. So I wrote and Liberty Hills, but then Shady Oaks neighborhood, which is Green Knolls up off of Miller Road. Yes, Jillian?
Yeah, regarding Shady Oaks. Oh, I wanted to, so there's something in the packet. Does anybody know what this is, where this came from? Special Assessment District Shady Oaks. It doesn't have a date on
It was
it.
sent to us by Sarah Fink.
Did she say when this was created?
No.
So Sarah, this is interesting.
Sarah Fink's May 6th email.
Oh, it was an attachment. Oh, I see.
It was an attachment. She said that they met with Lou Kidder, I guess, recently, and Larry Schneider is another person who's contacted us from that neighborhood. And they're asking for help, and I've recently driven on Green Knolls Drive, and I can tell you that it's potato chip asphalt. And it does need work. It appears to me that that's another one of those neighborhoods where we're kind of at that point where we say, okay, we need some neighborhood people to take the lead. But this is another one of those, like the lamplighter, where they have had a engineering and things were started,
Okay,
but not finished.
Shady Oaks, they've already had an SAD through the Washtenaw County Road Commission. So according to Act 246, maintenance and repair of improvement, proration of expensive joint improvement. After the completion of said proposed improvement, the highway authorities having jurisdiction over that highway involved shall maintain and repair said pavement and or sidewalk.
Was
So-
1987, the SAD for, it says they were paved in 1987, maintenance done in 1992.
Yeah, through the Washtenaw County Road Commission.
So there was an SAD to pave those in 1987, is what you're saying, and then, so now they want them redone, resurface or reconstruct or whatever. So now they're back, so.
Okay, but all right, whatever.
So it seems like this might be something to reach out to Joe on. Someone gave him some documents. I guess at this point, we don't know where those documents, I mean, obviously it sounds like Lou was somewhat involved, but was other people at the township involved? Here again, we get this information, but I don't think anyone at this table, so it seems like Joe has been is about any of them. It seemed like.
Well, and then it goes on to, the last sentence of the email was especially worrying to me. And I'm not trying to say anything against Ms. Fink, I just plain don't know. She asked, does last year's petition need to be modified as to cost? The estimated cost per parcel was expected to be around $6,800. Has that risen? So I'm not sure what the status of this one was left at, I guess was my difficulty. And I will tell you that I didn't take time to come to the township to find out.
So maybe we send this on to Joe and see what he knows, because we don't really know, and
Yeah.
and obviously the costs have increased substantially for oil. So I mean, I'm guessing those prices probably aren't valid anymore, but I have no idea what numbers they gave.
Well, and it's an interesting question because something that's quoted this year or estimated this year, they're going to have to estimate at this year's prices, and this gasoline is still going to be $4.79 a gallon next year. It's going to be a very difficult year to do accurate estimates for paved asphalt paving. Stone is a different case, but this is an asphalt.
Right. Yeah, I don't even think people are giving you estimates for next year.
All right, I will try and forward that to Joe Maynard and ask him what he knows about Shady Oaks. There's more detail here that could be gotten. I will apologize, but I work 70 hours a week right now, and I have a mother-in-law who's dying in a nursing home. So we only have this much time, and I'm very interested in helping citizens, but I also have other commitments. Okay, so we kind of have the same situation with lamplighter in that we have an old request that it sounds like a few people would like to do something on that road but haven't, they want something brought to light. And we had some contact from some Liberty Hills, which is the Bandera Shevchenko neighborhood off of West Liberty, earlier in April. When we have people who have had previous contact with the township and have not followed through with whatever the engineering or recommendations were, and they're coming back to us to ask to be reconsidered, I guess. Do we make a different roadmap for those people saying we need, or do we say the same thing Bob, do we ask for citizen participation? You know, we need leaders in your neighborhood. And then we can have a meeting again.
I think it's a safe way to do it. We want to be facilitators, we don't want to be.
Facilitators in your neighborhood. I like that a lot.
Well, and also the options, I mean, it's not just paving. Some of these emails talk about, well, they talk about especially, oh, you need another special assessment district or whatnot, but are they giving, are the neighborhoods given a choice? Like if it's gravel, I mean, if it's already paved, we already know what they're gonna do, but if they don't have to have a paved road, like in Lamplighter area, it could be a building up of the gravel, right? Are these options that are being provided? I mean, of course, we're just starting this, but
That's what we did with Park.
Right, was Lamplighter one of the projects on this year's road?
No, oh no, because it's a subdivision. That's, here again, that's where subdivision roads have to be done by the neighborhoods. Let's here again, the subdivision road that, you know, the people need to come to us. Yeah, your example, Jillian, I mean, there have been quite a few SADs for gravel road improvements in subdivisions. Probably.
and that's what Liberty Hills had.
Exactly. That's what they end up, it's like a long process. End of the day, that's what they agreed to do. There's also a couple other ones that they did the same thing. So yeah, the Lamplighter, you know, what do you want to do? And that's what we did on Park Ridge. If you guys want to pave it or you want to put gravel on that middle piece, it's their decision. And I think us on this committee, I don't really care. It's their road if they want, you know, paved in concrete, paved in asphalt, or gravel. That's, I mean, that's their decision. I don't think anyone here is gonna push that. And I think that's where, you know, but I think it's also, you know, we have a lot of these coming in and a lot of these unknowns. I mean, sometimes do we almost need to like take a time out? Not that I want to, but sort of like, because all these things like, okay, what about this one? What about this one? What about, and there's all these unknowns. And maybe we try to get Joe or someone who's keeping track of this stuff, because I'm not sure who has been.
Right now, this is what I have.
Right now,
Which is my
I appreciate
Excel
you
spreadsheet
started
that was
doing it.
page
You know,
6, I think, of the.
Not all of them were asking for SADs. They were just saying my road is terrible. And it's springtime. I mean, my road's terrible. And then they came through when it was dry and it's fine. You know, it's a gravel road. It's fine. But some of the responses are, oh, we need to, you know, we need to get an SAD process going. Maybe have you considered an SAD? So it's almost as if we're soliciting, not us, but if you read the responses, they're in there. So that's a little concerning. And if it's something that they do want, of course, then we need to, you know, follow through and give them options. But
If it's a subdivision, is that our proper response?
Well, they want a road improvement done on a subdivision, it's really an SAD.
well, are they saying improvement? But or is it just that the road commission needs to scrape? You know,
I guess I don't know what, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's dust, sometimes it's scrape, but if they're saying they want an improvement, I guess, yeah. Not knowing and people really don't understand, you know, sort of like fix my car, you know, type thing and say like, fix my road. What's that really mean? They really would just want it graded, dust control, but yeah, until we find out what they really want. And then they find out something they're willing to pay for or they're not.
Okay, well, you just hit on a great topic. Until we find out what they really want. How do we get to that step? Is that the first, you know, is that Bob sending a note and saying, okay, clarify what it is you're asking for? Instead of saying, if you're a neighborhood, you're gonna need an SAD, saying, thank you for your comments and concerns. What is it that you're asking the road advisory committee to help you with?
yeah, and then springtime, we're always gonna get a rash of emails,
Okay,
you know, and so there's just, yeah, right. I mean, look at all these. And as far as the Bogans go, they're not asking for more improvements, and I don't see anybody else from that neighborhood on here. But this drainage ditch berm, they were promised that with the original SAD, and it didn't happen. So
But they
do we
didn't-
take care of that?
they
Do we look
didn't-
into it?
They didn't do the whole SAD. That's the question I'm trying to figure out. The SAD that was proposed there and the SAD that was actually done.
They have two SADs, one for engineering and work, and the other one was a few years later, another SAD for engineering. Two different companies.
My understanding of it was a little bit different, but I'm very unclear as well. So it's a very good question. How do we
But there
find
was a
out?
road improvement done, limestone and gravel was added to that subdivision, and drainage work was improved. I think there was some type of berm built for the Bogans. It may not have, what they, there's a berm, this is a berm, and the berm could be as high as a ceiling. So I mean, I don't know exactly what their expectations were versus what was built.
They
were
very
told
clearly gave us
specifics.
about 10 pages of
No, I know,
documentation.
I've met with them numerous times. The tricky part is they have a basement that's lower than the pond next to them. So I mean, you're pumping, they have two sump pumps pumping continuously.
That whole area is very,
Right,
very wet.
yeah.
I have.
Whoever let them put a basement in next to a pond, that's the person that, it's like, what
Yeah, that-
are you thinking?
That should never have been approved for that build in the first place. Right.
So we're trying to, fix that, which it's groundwater. I mean, sometimes it's rainwater, but a lot of it's just groundwater. It's the elevation of the water.
Yeah, but from what I understand is that there was a specific size berm that was not in, because Lou Kidder told them, I mean, it was all in paperwork. And then the neighbors tried to sue them. Somebody stuffed a carpet into the culvert and blocked it, so the water would go, and there was lawsuits and everything, or threatening of lawsuits. So it's a, this, I just hear this stuff. I mean, I talk with the residents and I'm like, oh my God, this shouldn't be. Of course, there's always gonna be issues with, but anyway. So back to the point of this, that the Bogans contacted us regarding the drainage ditch berm, not for another SAD.
Roy, when did you speak with the Bogans?
5 more years
Oh, okay, not
No.
since we were, and I can't remember, I'm very sorry if that
No,
was
no.
the March or the April meeting, but yes. All right, well, we did send them a note, and I'm missing it, but there was a email from a realtor who apparently has moved to the Bandera neighborhood asking for road improvements down there. I don't know that Liberty Hills is as a neighborhood ready for road improvements, but it sounded like something needed to be addressed.
Oh, I think you're talking Dan Copeland and Salzburg Court. That part is paved and it is breaking down.
Right. Thank you. So, how do we, I don't know what to tell Liberty Hills neighborhood other than what was responded to them, which was, if you want to have another SAD meeting because it's a neighborhood and you've got some improvements that you need to have done.
Well, actually Salzburg Court is, so there's Bandera and then there's Shevchenko. It kind of does another horseshoe off that, but then Salzburg Court is right off of Shevchenko. And they are the only ones that use that road, except for the people that go in there like delivery.
It's
So they
another
could
bad
actually,
court.
somebody could meet with them and talk with them about their options. It wouldn't have to include the whole neighborhood.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
We're happy to meet with whoever, as long as I understand the parameters and who's who and who. I mean,
I mean, Jillian's correct. That could be if they're interested, they could do their standalone own little SAD on the 6 homes that are off that court, whatever, the 6 or 8 homes.
Bob, would you be willing to, looking at the Road Advisory Committee correspondence list spreadsheet, the April 13th, Dan Copeland, Salzburg Court, would you be willing to send him a note?
Sure.
Saying that, we discussed this, we looked at it, and it's a cul-de-sac, you may be your own little microcosm. Okay, so Shady Oaks seemed to want a response from us. What I will do is try and get information from Joe Maynard and bring it back to the next meeting. But the other piece I want to be careful of is that they seemed to feel that there was money assigned to them last year in a discussion, and last year is gone, and we have new township administrator pro tem. And I don't know how to act on previous promises from the neighborhood to the neighborhoods by the township without hurting somebody's feelings.
I'm not sure we can really resolve that.
Yeah, we can't.
We weren't involved a year ago and we really don't have authority to resolve it. We can try to track down Joe what he has, but beyond that.
I can then forward it to Jim Murray and we'll halfway and tell them this is what we've
Use
been.
information.
All right, and Lamplighter, same kind of situation again. There's a project from 2020 that was out there, but they sound like they'd like to revive. How do we respond? We try and get more information about who a neighborhood facilitator would be.
Yeah. You gotta get more information.
Groden, may I ask again? Charlie, one, run, May 8th.
I'm looking for names, emails for those folks.
The spreadsheet that was attached to the package
Yeah,
has the emails.
page 6. Steve King is lamplighter.
I'd be happy to send it to you again.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
This?
Yes, yes.
Also, the township has files on all the SADs. So I'm thinking that the Shady Oaks, because it kind of sounds like they were a little bit into the process, they should have a file.
All right, well, I'll see if I can get a hold of it for the next meeting. Because obviously there's some questions there that we don't even have. All right.
Yeah.
So item number 3 under unfinished business, we're trying to pull together 3 road advisory committee members to work with 3 TAP members at the suggestion of, I believe, Supervisor Hathaway, as well as the TAP committee, thought it would be a good idea to work in collaboration towards the proposed SAD renewal, a township-wide road SAD renewal project.
And
I volunteered, Linda.
Yes, and I was gonna say, and so Bob Walsh had volunteered, but Jillian brought up in her discussion of the minutes a thought on that. Jillian, did you have
yeah,
more?
so, okay. Back in 2013, when the original township-wide special assessment was passed, there was a resolution. And so years went on, and then all of a sudden there was this, oh, we meant to put in the 10% for TAP. Okay, well, I went back into the resolution. There's no mention of it. There's no mention in any article. So the only thing I found on this 10% was the 2020, April 28th, 2020. It went in front of the board. They voted on it, approved it. There was no public hearing. And so this is part of, they're taking 10% of our road SAD to go to pathways. Now, which I thought was odd, because why all of a sudden? And the other thing is a special assessment. In order for a special assessment to provide benefit, there has to be laid out plans. And it has to be a necessity and a benefit. Well, looking at this 10% resolution, there is no project. There's nothing laid out, but there's 10% just given to TAP to do whatever they want with it. So I really question the legality of all of this. I'm gonna have some assessors, outside assessors look at this. But when this went in front of the public back in 2013, the public, there was a public hearing, and I have that document, so which is fine. So the public was under the impression we were all going to be charged $85 a parcel for 10 years for roads. And it gave the projects that they were gonna do over 10 years, and there's a rotating list. Park Road was not done. That's created another issue over in that area, but we're not gonna talk about that. So having 10% of our road money go to TAP just is not proper. Then the other thing is, supposedly this was meant to be taken or included in the original, but TAP wasn't even created till 2017. So 2013, so that's 4 years. So this money should not be taken from us, from our roads, especially this past 10 years. It needs to stay in the roads, and we can use that money for improvements for roads. Like they want, there's Park Road and Zeeb that they're talking about a street light, and they want to charge another neighborhood, 700 people for that light. We have the money to pay for it, but we're gonna take 500 and some thousand and give it to the Zeeb Road pathway, which does not benefit the whole township. It does not raise the value of our parcels.
I'm not gonna argue, this is for going forward, so if the past one,
Okay.
okay, but going
But-
forward,
Mhm.
the proposal seems to be, and again, it's up to us to recommend it, it's up to TAP to recommend it, and it's up to the board to decide what they wanna do. But at the moment, TAP is getting, in their belief, 10%, correct or incorrect. And they wanna form a joint venture to see, all right, what do we do when this expires?
Okay, and we also have a Parks and Pathways millage that was passed in November of 2019. So they also have money. I just don't feel that, taking our roads, that we're supposed to be improving with that money, and we do have an excess, but
But if you go, because I was involved in 12 to 13, we talked about this. It always was the intent that 10% was gonna be set aside for non-motorized improvements. It doesn't have to be pathways.
it's not in any document.
Well, I'm just
that I
saying it was discussed at those public meetings, I guess, David Reed, Lou and I, we had those discussions. And it may have been David Reed's idea, I'm not sure exactly, but
It was. It was.
Okay,
I talked
so
with
the other
him
thing
about it.
is, not everyone drives cars. So some people can only get around by walking and taking the bus, so sidewalks is their way to get around. So saying, just because I pay $85, what happens if I don't drive a car?
But the point
That
that
was the reason the 10% was sort of set aside, that's a big.
it wasn't set aside though, that's the point.
Well, it was supposed to be, it didn't, but that was the intent. It sounds
My
like they
intent
corrected the
was
intent
present, too.
whenever you said they passed a resolution.
But the thing is that there's processes for special assessments stated in statute, and this violates statute.
But this SAD is ending at the end of this year.
Right.
What we're talking about is going forward.
Going forward.
Well, yes, but still, are we going to make sure that this is presented to the public, a public hearing, and
Yes.
saying that 10% is gonna go to pathways?
Yes,
And keep in mind, we already have a Parks and Pathways millage.
Right, there's no guarantee that's always gonna be renewed or it's always gonna be in place. There, obviously, you're right, it wasn't in place back in 2013, passed in 19, what's the date? So that was the intent, and that's what, and obviously the board, so like, there was confusion back and forth, sounds like they passed it. But I think what we're talking about now is going forward.
Okay, that's fine, but for right now, we're still under that 10-year, and we have this.
No, we're under what the board passed, put that 10% aside. They passed that
But
resolution.
that resolution is a violation of the law.
It's
Well, that's
beyond
between
our
us.
prerogative, though.
Yeah, you're arguing what the township board did.
No, I'm just stating facts because there's residents listening and we're here and we're learning. And there's, again, statutes and ordinances and whatnot that need to be followed.
but the item on the agenda is going forward. It's not revisiting this old one.
My intention was, do we as a group have volunteers? Yes, we do, to work with TAP. We've had several meeting topics in the past few months about how the millage could be
Planning.
pushed forward. Jillian, I acknowledge your concern. I'm not sure that we're gonna be, the be all end all on this, but we're trying to suggest that the township-wide SAD millage renewal would be a good idea. Under what exact terms, I do not know.
Yeah, it's been a great thing for our township,
Okay, so I'm glad.
for roads.
I'm glad we can agree on that. All right, Kathy, unless you had a board of trustees report that you wanted to make verbally, we don't have any reports this evening.
Well, I wasn't prepared to give it. Our last meeting was a difficult meeting. It went until after 1 a.m. Several things were tabled. And these SADs. I'll leave it at that. I mean, I know some of you have watched board meetings. I don't know if you were there even.
I went to bed at about 12:15 and just couldn't do it anymore.
I'll leave it at that.
I think that we talked about the MCL 41.22A Act 246 and its effect on the RAC with Jillian earlier in the meeting.
I'll send it to you.
I think that's what she was quoting. So that would put us in time for public comment unless anyone else had anything else they wanted to add. All right, I have a hand up from Ms. Ryder, and it appears that she's at the Bogans house. We were talking about the Bogans on Bandera a little bit ago. Are we ready for public comment?
Say that again, Linda.
Sandy Ryder has her hand raised, and there's a note in the chat that says she's at the Bogans house.
Oh,
Talking about the Bogans earlier, I'd like to invite her in, if I can. Because she was first. So Sandy, I'm trying to ask you to unmute.
Andy, maybe he.
Cynthia, what do I do here?
There you go. All right, excuse me. Hi there. Good evening.
Stop video.
Please go ahead.
Oh.
Okay, you're
Hello.
on, Billy.
Okay, sorry, hi. Didn't know everybody could hear me. Hi, this is the Bogans. We're actually at Sandy Ryder's house. She's not at our house. We're
I'm
at her
sorry.
house having dinner. Anyway, hey, I felt like I had to comment on the comments about the berm and the water issues at 1081 Bandera. Our house was built in 1964, so for 58 years, water has been pumped into the ditch from that pond. A few years ago, there was a 100-year flood that made like a 20-foot wide waterfall over that berm from the road into our pond. It raised the pond a foot in 20 minutes. So we don't feel like we have protection from the ever higher road surface. And that package I sent to you some time ago included like laser level data showing that our berm is lower than the road at almost every point. And in the original SAD 1, I mean, I see no need to go inveigle the neighbors to form another SAD when SAD number 1 hasn't even been completed. There was $5,000 set aside. We were told to raise our berm. No work has been done on that berm, of any height. And we just wondered where that money disappeared to. And we would like to, before any further SADs are created, we'd like to see that SAD completed properly and have our property protected from further flooding from the ditch and from the any future rain events. That's our prime concern.
All right.
Can I add to that? We have documentation from a neighborhood meeting where the neighborhood activist said, in order to protect private property, the road level, the berm must be raised. We had a conversation with Bryce Kelly when we were in Indiana in October of, I forget exactly what year, we could track it back. Bryce never put things in writing. And he told us that indeed that berm needed to be raised, but they were going, and he said, we'll get back to you. It turns out it needs to be 24 inches. So we need access to your property. The road commission says it needs to be that height. Then in a subsequent conversation, he said, Lou Kidder says it only needs to be raised up 6 inches. Since it's now late fall, they won't do the work until the spring. And then it was dead silence, nothing. We couldn't get any information. because of SAD number 1, the road level was raised. As you guys commented, there was a lift on the road. That put us in greater jeopardy. So when we came to talk to you, the issue is we don't have it in our experience, the way SADs have been written has not been complied with. And that is an issue. And yet where is the track record? Where is the information? How can we find it out?
Who's responsible for spending the
And by
money?
the way, who is Bob Groden here? Who is Bob Groden? Okay, thank you. We didn't know who you were. So thank you for your email, and we will get back to you on that. But I would like to tell you now that we did try to create a drain district. We met with Evan Pratt and with Bryce Kelly. Deborah Shad, is her last name Shad, I think?
So.
At the road commission, at the Water Resources Commission, gave us all the forms, told us how to do it. We did it. We had one neighbor show up. We had one other neighbor who came along as a friend. So that's not gonna fly. You know, we tried that. We don't want another SAD. We just don't want to be, you know,
In danger.
and
right.
we don't want to be endangered. And also, I mean, Bryce Kelly said to us, if I need to buy a property in order to,
Like,
you know, create
resolve
SAD
this.
number 2, because SAD number 2 was supposed to be a paving. But then, and that's where the issue becomes, you know,
You can't pave until the drainage is solved. yes.
yeah, it was the road commission. And yet we were told the you know, they were trying to bypass the road commission in order to do the whole thing. Oh, well, we always use Cadillac asphalt, et cetera, et cetera. It just makes us feel so unsafe. And I don't know, it's like government hasn't been backing us up, and it's like, where is the accountability for anything? So we're just trying to feel safe and not feeling under assault.
We appreciate your comments very much. I have pulled out the packet of information that you gave to us with your email in March, I think. I'm sorry. Anyway, that was part of our discussion earlier. We're going to do some more investigation. We are trying. Did you have more? Anyone? Oh, all right, I have a couple other hands.
Thanks.
We will be back in touch. Thank you. Pam Boyd had her hand up.
Yes. Good evening. I want to point out that I believe it was yesterday yesterday, short week. The state has passed a state gas, they're taking the gas tax off of the gas pumps. So the road commission will be shorted funds from June 15th to September 15th. It's a pause, excuse me, that's the terminology. And that will be, well, that'll hit a domino. Kathy, could you please say again your comment about what was not put on the taxes, the SADs? That was very quick, and I'd like to hear that again, please. Thank you.
Well, the data's still coming out. I don't know all the facts yet, but apparently there were 2 or 3 SADs that were not put on the tax bills for the residents in those SADs. So SAD assessments were not on the tax bills. That's all I know. I don't know how much money is involved. I don't know how many years. It's all just coming out.
So 2 millages were missed. SAD.
2 millages are
And
missed,
checks went missing?
SADs and checks, and I don't know what's going on.
All right, I think Pam Boyd is done. I've got Rob Pattinson's hand up. Good evening, Pattinson.
Thank you, Rob Pattinson, Scio Township. I would like to thank the Bogans for highlighting how this SAD process has not worked in the past. Yes, it's been established for a long time, but and we're finding out from Kathy tonight as well, that a lot of things have slipped through the cracks. And that is the duty of this committee to try and fix that. I've got some written comments from earlier tonight. This committee needs to remember that you're all on the same team. Bob Walsh telling a colleague to stop twice is the same as telling that colleague to shut up. I don't know your work history, but that is not how a team communicates to each other with respect. You owe an apology. Bob Groden said earlier tonight he's interested in results. Before this committee can begin getting results, you need to have established policy that is clear and fair to everyone. Excuse me. To everyone in the township and in the SAD area itself. I understand your willingness and enthusiasm for working with residents already this year on their road issues. I would suggest proceeding with and communicating with caution until you do indeed have a solid policy in place. Roy Townsend has said several times in the last few months that the process has been in place since 2012. I hope you all remember that you are on this committee, and this committee was brought together because the way it has always been done blew up last year because it was abused. You are here to establish a fair and clear process. Doing it the way it's always been done isn't good enough anymore. Thank you, Ian, for your professionalism once again tonight. The tension is in the room because the team isn't on the same page, literally. Your calmness and ability is what this team needs. Thank you, Knol, for letting the committee know that there is a problem with the billing of SADs. I suggest that is another aspect of the SAD process this team needs to address. Make sure there is a clear billing process within the township in the future. It can't be left up to having someone who knows how to do it in place to do the job. This summer is the best example of how that doesn't work when those people aren't there. Thank you all for continuing to work on this difficult assignment. You have the toughest assignment of all the committees because you are basically starting from scratch on a very complex issue. We're light years ahead of where we were last summer when it all melted down, but there is a long way to go. Please continue to treat each other with respect. Thank you.
I don't see,
Jonathan, I thought, Jonathan Greenberg had his hand
I'm
up.
sorry, I have a limited sight
Yep.
of the screen.
How many people are in attendance? I can't see them.
I see Jonathan, thank you.
Yeah, no, so thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, Jonathan.
Good evening. And, I did actually put my hand down because I didn't want to go after Rob's awesome comments. Following that was just not really, I don't feel like I'm up to the task. But having said that, I would like to point out that there have been now 3 occasions where that we know of, 3 occasions where financial oopsies have affected SADs and other aspects that fall under your purview. And I would encourage this committee to ask that when somebody says this is never going to happen again, you ask the question, well, what policies and procedures have been put into place to ensure that it doesn't happen again? Because you all need to tell us. And Kathy has to tell us, why did this happen? How is it not going to happen again? We would really appreciate your help communicating that to the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is there anyone else online? We have no one in person this evening besides the committee members. Seeing none, I call the public comment session done. Our next meeting may or may not be July 6th. We're going to have a valiant effort to have a quorum. I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:24 this evening. Do I request a motion? Ian? Someone second? I'll second. Kathy? Knol will second. All right. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's attendance.